community activist, the one and only Georgia Allen. Are you there?
I am here. Hello, hello, hello.
I'm telling you.
So excited to be here today. It is, as always, Thursday, and it's time to have a community conversation. I am Georgia F. Allen, and this show is called GA4JUST-Is. And I'm so excited to be here. As always, we want to thank Henderson Vaughn, a.k.a. the Dream Maker, a.k.a. Captain 85, who has opened the airways to bring our listening audience a conversation for information, a conversation for correction, as well as a conversation for transformation. We're going to talk a little bit about educating. You know, we say education is a buzzword that we use all the time. And sometimes we don't feel like we're actually doing the hard work of actually educating our young people. And so today's topic is going to be investing in educating. Okay, making sure that what we're doing is beneficial to our community, to our family, to our children, so that we can have a better outcome. It's critically important that our families, and when I say family, I mean the entire nuclear family. I don't mean just mom and dad and the kids. I mean grandparents, aunts, uncles, brothers and sisters should all be actively involved in investing in our children and investing in educating our children. If we want to have a different outcome, we're going to have to do some things differently. But basically, we're going to have to do things the old way. We're going to have to get back to the basics. A lot of what has been happening over the years in terms of some of the outrageous things that go on in our school system is we change behaviors. When my mom was alive and I was a small child going into elementary school, my mom came to the school. If she had to come to school, she came to the school dressed, professionally dressed, even though her job at home or the work that she did may have been domestic. When she came to that schoolhouse, she came properly attired. She came with her head high, and she did not come with rollers. She did not come with a cap. She did not come undermining the things that was important to me as a young person growing up into my own. Okay. She presented herself as a person of integrity. She presented herself to that schoolhouse as a person of power, of independence, of knowledge. Of course, when I started school, my father had already passed away. I did have a stepfather, but as most of you know, the mothers are actively involved in their children's well-being and their children's education. So many times you may not see the father at the school. It doesn't mean that the father is not involved, because he takes his position when the children come back into the household. I want you to hear me clearly. In the old days, the father took his position when the children came back home from school. The mother took her position when she was there with the children in the schoolhouse when it was necessary. Are you familiar with that, Mr. Vaughn?
Let me see. Can I stand up?
Are you familiar with how our parents did those things?
Hey, of course, because my mom was check-tizers, and she said, man, my dad's name was Levi. And she said, wait till Levi get home. She always said, she didn't say your dad, wait till Levi get home. You already know what that is.
Absolutely.
You get your butt tore up.
Absolutely.
And they worked. My mom always was, make sure she went to school and talked to the teachers with any concerns that she had. Mm-hmm. My dad was more like the worker. He worked in the shipyard, so he's at work. So my mom was like a housewife. He didn't want my mom to work.
Right.
you know, so she was a housewife. She
Mhm.
took care of the kids, the house, and, you know, responsible for, you know, overseeing the bills and everything. So it's important for young people to be educated in those type of procedures, because all my kids, they take care of themselves
Mhm.
because they saw that. They grew
Absolutely.
up in that with their grandparents, and all my kids, my grandkids, they
Mhm.
do this. They're the same way. All of them, you know, because their parents instill in them, this is what you have to do.
Absolutely. And it's called discipline.
Yes.
We have moved away from disciplining our children. We have now come into this new mindset that the children are making the decisions, and we're to listen, we're to encourage, we're to, if that's what the child wants to do, then you want to encourage the child. If that's what the child thinks of, that's what the child believes, you want to just listen to the child. Well, it worked a little differently when I was a child.
Right.
My parents invested in me, they instilled in me values. Okay. So, education, of course, is a transmission of knowledge and skills
Hmm.
and character traits. But educating is the constant development of our children to provide, to promote, to train, to give knowledge, and to refine and instruct. We've gotten to the place that our children are the ones who are giving instructions. Our
Yep.
children are the ones who are defining how things should be. That has not been working for our community, because if they had been working, then we
Hello.
wouldn't see the type of outcomes that we are seeing today. Now, there may be people out there who may not like hearing what I'm speaking about today, and that's okay, because sometimes you have to listen to something more than one time to capture what is being said.
Yeah.
Um, we want our children, when we look at them, we want our children to be able to discern. And right now, we are saying everything goes. Anything and everything goes. I can remember when this was becoming a part of society. And I've shared this before, but some of you may not have heard it. My son wanted to get his ear pierced back when he was a teenager. And I said no. While all the other people around me were getting their kids' ears pierced as a teenager, and all, for me, I believe that parents should do the parenting and the children should be the children. And whether it's something as simple as getting an ear pierced or not, once they understand there are rules and regulations, they can also understand rules and regulations as they go out into society. And society also has rules and regulations. Once they understand discipline and that you're going to follow these particular disciplinary actions, then they can understand it better. But if this is an all and everything goes society, that's when you start seeing confusion. That is when you start to see young people uh, take actions and behaviors that are not in their best interest, but it's also not in the best interest of the family. It's not in the best interest of society either. And so I hopefully, as I conversate with you today before my guest comes on, um, hopefully you will begin to understand that it's time to take a step back. It's time for you to start doing the investing in the educating, and not just sending kids off to school for an education.
Hmm.
Okay. You need to be involved in that education process in the household and outside of the household. If you're a person that goes to church, you need to be involved in the investing in educating so that it is an ongoing process. But also your community surrounding you, we should all be on one accord.
Right.
What has taken place, of course, is we used to be able to get chastised by our neighbors. Now, if you even say or blink at a child, parents are having an absolute fit.
Yeah.
And so now the children is hearing two different things. Whereas before, all the children in the community heard the same message. They heard our parents say no. They heard our neighbors say no. They heard the pastor say no. They heard, all the different people were saying the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so the kids were not confused because they were receiving the same message all the time. And all throughout, they were being educated, and we were educating them as a collective, not as an individual. And so we have an opportunity to hear from a young lady. She'll be coming on shortly. Henderson will give me the heads up sign when she has popped in on the screen so that I'll know to introduce her to the audience and we can have a further conversation. She's an author. She's written children's books, and we want to hear from her. But she's also a substitute teacher, and she's worked in the school system, so she's had an environment. She's all the way from Omaha, Nebraska, and I would venture to say there are not a lot of differences in being in a school system here in Virginia or being in a school system in Washington, D.C., Maryland, or all the way out halfway across the country in Nebraska. So we want you to have an opportunity to hear from her and what she has to share with you today. Again, investing in educating our children is going to be a significant thing if we want to change outcomes. Investing in educating our young people, not simply from a schoolhouse standpoint, but also an in-house standpoint. That is going to be critically important as well, because if we're not educating our children in our homes, then that's going to affect their behavior in our schoolhouses. That's going to affect their behavior when they're in various types of environments. We understood as young people that when we went into the church, that we had a behavior that was acceptable in the house of worship. And so there was not this jumping over the pews. Today, children come to church and they're like, what is this? I remember the first time I saw some young people in church and they were doing that. I almost had a heart attack. I literally almost had a heart attack because I was thinking, I'm like, I've never seen this foolishness before. Yeah. But as time goes on, you see more and more of it. And, and so we need to make sure that we know the hierarchy. There's a child, there are parents, and then above those parents, there are, okay, she's getting a black screen. You might have to send her another link.
Her in. Okay.
Okay.
Let me see what she clicked.
Yeah, she sees the banner at the bottom with her info, but she's not getting it. So anyway, there's a hierarchy. And so above your parents or the leader of your household, there's also a faith that is above that. And the reason why I didn't say immediately God is because we have all these people with all these different religions and everything. But at the end of the day, you generally will have some type of faith. Yes, there are people that's advertising on TV that's saying that they don't believe in anybody and they have the right not to believe in anybody, and we don't want anybody to tell us, to believe in a God. They're atheists or whatever. And yes, that's their right to do that. Some people believe in trees, or some people believe in a flower. That's their opportunity to do that as well. I, on the other hand, believe in the hierarchy, where I believe that God is above us and that he gives us guidance as we live. And if we're trying to have a better outcome, we need something stronger than ourselves that can help us to move things in a better direction. So, with that being said, one of the things that I did want to share with you, and I'll probably share it again at the end of the show or toward the end of the show, is in the Commonwealth of Virginia, we have what we call a primary election, and that's going to take place on June the 20th, which is next Tuesday. Here again, that's educating the community, educating our young people, educating others. In primaries, if there is no competition, even though you have a candidate, you may not need to vote, because if the candidate doesn't have an opposition, then there's no reason for them to be on the ballot. So you want to double check, and you can just call your local office of the voter registrar's office and determine whether you're living in a district where there is a primary that is taking place, where there's competition within your party of choice. So in my district, I may have candidates that's running in both parties. So there are two primaries, but you have to ask for the ballot of the primary that you want to vote in. In another district, it may have a primary for one political party, but the primary for the other party doesn't take place because they don't have any competition. So keep that in mind. But elections are Tuesday, June the 20th. And we want to encourage you, if you live in this Commonwealth of Virginia, that there is an election. That is very important, that we make sure that we are involved in our election process. And so, also, we always want to keep you up to date. Juneteenth is coming up this weekend, the 17th, the 18th, and Monday the 19th. There is going to be all types of events on the oceanfront, on 20th, 24th Street. So if you're interested in Juneteenth, Google it. It's under Team Lamb, LAMB, but it's also under, you'll be able to find it on the NAACP website. You'll probably be able to find it on Do the Right Thing website. But take advantage of some of these things that are going on in the community, because they're educational. And you can get actively involved, identify groups and organizations that you can participate in to make a change in your neighborhood, your local community, so that you can have a better outcome. Again, this is investing in educating. So my goal, whenever I come on the air, whether everything comes together or it doesn't come together, my goal is always to use this platform to provide information, having a conversation, to have a conversation for correction, to have a conversation for transformation, because we don't want people to continue to stay in the same mode if they're not getting positive outcomes. And that has been my concern for a while now, is that we have a tendency to fall into this trap, and then we don't know how to get out of the trap. Hopefully, some of the things I'm sharing with you will help you to get out of the trap. Okay, I see my guest photo up, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about my guest. Her name is Martha Woodruff. She was born in Blythefield, Arkansas, but was raised in Omaha, Nebraska. She always had a talent for writing poetry and short stories, but never thought of trying to have anything published. After working in banking for 20 plus years, she retired and decided to resume her first career working with children, which she loved so much. That's when she was inspired to write a book called My Magic Jacket. While working as a substitute teacher in an early childhood learning center in Omaha, she saw all the beautiful, different colored, smiling faces with diverse backgrounds and wanted to write a children's book to express how great different colors are. This book meant so much to her, and she wanted to share it with children all around the world. After she wrote My Magic Jacket, she was inspired to write a book about a grandmother and her granddaughter's experience in Sunday morning church service. This children's book attempts to explain the Holy Trinity in a way that a 5-year-old could understand. This author does have other books for children in the pipeline, as well as a nonfiction story about her life. And so her other book, and I'll put it up, is called Happy House. So with that being said, I want to invite my guests to come on. Martha, we are pleased to have you joining us today to share a little bit about your writing and what you are doing. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
How's everybody today?
Absolutely wonderful.
Great. Yeah, I'm starting to get out there and not only do book signings, but get into a lot of different places, bookstore, Christian bookstores, and also just trying to get the word out there about my book. I wrote them both during the height of COVID. So I didn't get a lot of exposure on either book. I got more on Magic Jacket than I got on Happy House. But so I'm trying to kind of get out there now and get this out there in children's hands.
Okay.
And the books were all an inspiration from this.
The books were what?
They were inspired by children themselves.
Wonderful. And I have read both of the books.
It was inspired by.
I found them to be very enlightening. The Magic Jacket, put it up on screen. It was a book that I found that a young person could definitely relate to. And I felt that it was a little interactive. Did you write the book so it could be more interactive, so it could be a more participatory type book where the child could look at the different photos and pictures and stuff and kind of implement things within their own homes and make it a part of activity type book?
I did. And I also made it so that the child could gather possibly items in the book, such as a piece of candy, a car, or a toy, or and I even sold with Roy, stuffed animal, stuffed mouse. So I made it so that they could identify each object in the book.
Wonderful. And that's even the outer cover having stars on the books. A mother could read that, a mother or father could read that to her child and take them outside and let them look up in the sky and see that, there's stars on the book, but there's also stars up in the sky as well. So when I was, looking at the book, I was looking at all the different ways. I noticed the kite in the book. So there were a lot of different things that I saw where children could be interactive, where they could talk to their parents about things that they see in the book, ask questions about these various things, and see if there's some way that they can implement them in their day-to-day activities, not necessarily every day, but throughout, use time to be able to interact and participate. There is a slight delay,
Right.
family. So I just want to go ahead.
Yeah, I've been told by parents that they've worn the book out because kids want them to read it over and over and over again. So it's been a good response to Magic Jacket.
Terrific. And we definitely wanted to have you on because a lot of times we don't see a lot of the books that embraces the various cultures, embraces young people at such a young age, where they're able to talk and discuss things. Because now there's been so much negativity with regards to learning anything about anybody other than white Americans. And so I looked in the book and I noticed that it was quite diverse. Both of them were quite diverse. And I was just talking to my little great granddaughter this weekend, and she was sharing with me that her teacher had told her about Maggie Lena Walker. Now, I'm not sure if you've heard of Maggie Lena Walker, but she's a person out of Richmond, Virginia. And she says, Gigi, she was very rich. I said, yes. I said, she was born, I want to say late 1800s. And she started her own bank, her own insurance company. She had an elevator in her house in the early 1900s and so on and so forth. And it just and her eyes just lit up. She said she had an elevator in her house. I said, yes. And I said, as a matter of fact, your grandma actually, she calls B actually went to the house and was able to see it for herself. I said, would you like to go up and visit that house? She was like, sure. And so just teaching our children about, Black people who have been extremely successful, has owned a lot. It helps them to understand that there's opportunities out here. And that's what I saw in your book. I saw the opportunity for young people to want to write a book and the possibility of them wanting to write a book. I saw the possibility of them even wanting to go into journalism or wanting to, write for a local newspaper or magazine. And every time we do things, we want to always expand their thoughts.
Right. Because, when I was growing up, all the things that you just mentioned were maybe in my thought process, but it didn't seem to be a possibility for me. I didn't know or believe that someone like me at that time could be a journalist, even though I wanted to do that. Could be maybe an FBI agent if I wanted to do that. But multiple things that we do now, we can do now if we aspire to it. Because I didn't, even on the big screen, we didn't see people of color get the opportunities to show children what they could do.
Correct. One of the things you mentioned in your bio is substitute teaching. Share with us what you're finding in schools when you are substitute teaching our children, and what impact do you hope to have on their minds to maybe move them from where they are to where they can be?
Well, the substitute teaching was actually prior to was actually during COVID. Since then, I left the teaching for a while, but at that time when I was teaching, I tried to inspire the children to do different things, to talk about who they were and who they wanted to be, and just to and by doing that, I would make sure that they love to read. Not only if they could, even if they couldn't read, look at the pictures and imagine what that picture was relating to them. So it was important to me to be with the children, not only in the classroom, but outside of the classroom at playtime. You learn at playtime as well about life and things that you need to know every day.
Absolutely. And that's critically important. We were before you came on the screen, we were talking about things that our parents used to do when we were growing up. Discipline. Our parents came to the school dressed appropriately. If the father had to come to the school, he made sure he had on nice slacks, a white shirt, generally a tie, and usually a jacket.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't necessarily have to have a suit on, but he was dressed nicely when he came to the schoolhouse. Same with our mothers. Our mothers always came to the schoolhouse. They did not have rollers in their hair. They did not have on a cap or what have you, but they always came, and they always came with authority. They came for a specific reason. They asked questions. They got their answers, and then they learned how to move through this system per se, as it pertained to making sure that their children had a good outcome. Did you find that parents came to school in Nebraska dressed appropriately, or has dressing down become the norm everywhere, even in adults?
Yeah. I found even in my job now, I work at the Health and Human Services department. That and in the school system, they come as they are, basically. When my parents would come to school, people would know that's an adult. You're in trouble. Parent comes to school today, the teacher may be in trouble.
Correct.
The child will say, my mama's gonna come get you, or it's totally different. Mm-hmm. There's no respect as far as teaching our children how they're supposed to present themselves in public to people who have authority over you during that time, because actually a teacher, anyone in that school has an authority over your children while they're there to teach them, and if you don't teach them about that authority and how they should act by modeling how they should act, then it's not going to happen.
Excellent word, modeling. You want to model the actions that you want our next generation to have. And if the way you're operating, the way that you're acting is modeling behavior that can be dangerous, it can be disrespectful, then that is what the outcome is going to be. And so I like that word, modeling. I'm gonna have to write that down. That what type of models are we? A lot of people say they don't want to be a role model, and I can understand that when you're an athlete or you're maybe in the music industry or what have you. But if you're a scientist, I might want you to be a model. Okay. I might want you to conduct yourself in a behavior and in a manner that children see that and want to become that. It's like Christine Darden, who was an aerospace scientist who was part of Hidden Figures and who was part of the women of NASA. She modeled a behavior of being brilliant. She wasn't just smart, she was brilliant. Same with the other ladies that was part of the NASA program who were considered computers versus human beings who were just, smart people. So I like what you say about modeling behaviors.
Right. On my bio, when it talks about me returning to my first love of working with children, I worked at a boys club, North Omaha Boys Club, for 3 years when I first got out of college. And my mentor there told me that I was a model for the boys there of what a female or a woman should represent or look like or be, and be on a daily basis. And that stuck with me. And to today, even the young men that I see from the club, 8 years old then, maybe 30 something now, still remember me as that person that modeled what an adult, a female adult, should be like.
I bet it also helped them in selecting their wives as well. So the type of lady that they wanted as a partner, in their relationships, that probably had an impact on them as well. Huh? What did you say?
Yeah, I said, I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a lot. When they say it takes a village to raise our children, it does. They need to hear from us and they need to see us in a light that is different than what they're seeing on TV a lot of times. And I think that we have kind of fallen back somewhat in terms of us, standing up straight, dressing appropriately, making sure that when we go out, that they see adults and who they can feel like, you know what, when I grow up, I would like to be like that. I see we got a message from a Judy Gammy Lawrence Lamb. She said most children actually want discipline, and I believe that it gives them security. If they can adapt to the rules of the classroom, they surely should be able to adapt to the rules of the home. And you're absolutely right, Judy. I thank you for that comment. And we definitely want to make sure that we are modeling behavior that our children want to adapt to, want to adopt as well. And that's important. So thank you for that comment. Martha? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Were you able to hear that comment?
Yeah, I think that was a wonderful. Yes, I was, and I think that was a wonderful comment as well. And I believe that also that it kind of mirrors the behavior at home and the behavior at school. They kind of mirror each other,
Mm-hmm. That's important. I don't know how much longer you have before you have to get back. I know you were saying that you had a short window, and I want you to have the opportunity to have closing comments And I definitely want to thank you for coming. I know having a delay kind of was a little bit of a challenge,
Yeah,
but we definitely enjoyed having you. Again, we have Martha Woodruff, and she has 2 books, and we want to encourage you, if you don't have them, go ahead and give them your website or a number or something that people can reach out to you if they want to purchase your book. Again, I have read both of them. I was very pleased. I'm going to give them to my little lady, Miss Hayden. Miss Hayden loves reading, and she's already informed me that as soon as she gets out of school, Gigi is going to be taking her to the library so she can spend some time in the library. So I have my marching orders for the summer already. She made clear of that. Modeling behaviors. Go ahead. Give us your comments.
That's great. Well, I appreciate you having me on. Definitely, it's a new experience for me. I've never done this before. The nerves are a little shaky here, but I loved it. Writing as I said, has always been important to me. It's just a way of me saying things that I don't get to say or can't say to other people. But when I write for children, it's just there. It's there. Just comes to me, and it's something I always want to share with them. There's just so much out there to say to kids, and they just love hearing it. So I just want to give something and leave something. That's just how I am.
Well, thank you so very much for joining us today. We appreciate it. And wherever we can let people know about what our community is doing, whether they're in Nebraska, whether they're in Virginia Beach, whether they're on the East Coast, West Coast, North or South, we definitely want to let our listening audience know there are a lot of people out here doing positive things in our community, and we want to make sure that we're promoting the positives all the time. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Right, and I just want to say hello to my.
You want to say hello to?
I just want to say hello to my family there in Virginia Beach.
Okay.
My family in Virginia Beach.
All right. Yes, you have a lot of family out here.
Thank you.
All right. You're welcome, and thanks for joining us. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Okay, so you had the opportunity to hear from Martha Woodruff. Again, she's from Omaha, Nebraska. So I think she's been our furthest guest so far on this show. And this was kind of new to her. So that's okay. We're going to keep on. We'll probably invite her back again now that she's been on the air. And anybody who has done radio or television or a combination thereof know that the first time you do this is not always the easiest thing in the world. I think she did a fantastic job. She shared with us about her books. She shared with us a little bit about some of the work that she's done in education, which is good. We definitely want to have teachers out there that are working on behalf of our children. Did you want to share something, Henderson?
Yes. I mean, this is the factor of why I do these things, because it's like we give our minds of our youth, our leaders, to other people to shape. And this is why we in where we are now with the violence in our community. And when you're trying to go back in and explain to the city or the people that supposed to be running the city and the school boards, they're rejecting the things that our community needs to know. With her writing her books, because like I tell people, I've been doing this for years, and I'm probably one of the first ones in modern time that's did a comic book, because when was doing the research and doing all the studies, I went to the comic book stores, and they said, "Well, we don't carry no black comic books. Why not? Because they ain't gonna buy them." So
that's the same thing they said about black movies, and now they're making hundreds of millions of dollars, up into the billions of dollars. Everything, and now they want to control that again.
Hello. Shout out to Tyler Perry, because he just bought BET
and VH1.
Yeah. So I'm hoping, as I continue to work on my characters and books, that I can, do a pilot, to send out to somebody to look at, because it's not about the violence. You don't have to show violence to get young people's attention.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't show violence, that means you got to show something positive. My books and everything that I do, I got kids talking to the police department, and they're listening. I got things that where they're educating that I taught my kids how to play chess, and they're sanctioned. They're sanctioned in the chess society, So they, all my kids are graduated from college. My youngest one that I used to bring to the APAC Association, he's just graduated from Airborne, and stationed in North Carolina, and he'll be home the weekend. But these are the things, and he's a comedian. Everything he does, he pays attention to what he do. He pays attention, and this is the reason why I did the books, because it's about their life. Everything that they did coming up, I put it into the comic books and poems and stuff that I write. And because if you pay attention to your kids, they teach you a lot of stuff.
Absolutely.
And the one thing they teach you is they really just want to be loved.
Absolutely.
You ain't got to be yelling at them. You ain't got to be threatening them. I told my kids like this: I'll buy you anything I can afford to buy. But if I get a letter from your teacher about anything, one or two things is going to happen. One, that Xbox or the PlayStation or whatever console they want, they had it. And whatever when I could afford to buy the games that they want to play, they had it. But I told them like this: first, I'm gonna take it away from you. If I get one call from your teacher, I don't supposed to be getting no calls other than because we went to the PTA meetings.
Oh yeah.
Secondly, I said after that, if I get a second call, that video game, I'm gonna take it, put it in the closet. Thirdly, if you're getting real ugly, I'm gonna take a hammer and break it up in front of you. You got two choices. One or two choices, because either I do that or I'm gonna give it to your friend. Your friend gonna have your console and all your games.
Right.
All you have to do is go to school and learn. That's all.
Absolutely.
So
that's important.
Yeah.
That is very, very important. Well, it looks like we are coming to the close of the show today, and I'm gonna close it out just to remind everybody locally and throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia, we have an election on Tuesday. Go to the polls, vote. And why is that so important? Because people in the state legislatures, people in Congress, guess what? They get to select who are our judges. And why is that so important? Because currently we have a Supreme Court that just ruled in the favor of Voting Rights Act Section 2. And while we don't have the most favorable justices on that Supreme Court, they followed the law, which is what they should always be doing. They don't always do that.
Right.
They come up with some, things and try not to follow the law. They try to, make up things that, well, that's too personal, or that's too this or that or whatever. But if we have people elected to office who can make decisions regarding the courts here in our local cities, the courts in Norfolk, the courts in Virginia Beach, the U.S. district courts, if we are participating in elections and we elect enough people to control the different houses, the state legislature, the governor, the presidency, the U.S. Congress, the U.S. Senate, when we are working and electing people to serve in those positions, we have a better chance of getting persons on our courts. And that is critically important. Again, we were fortunate that this time the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in our favor by saying that the voting rights of Black people were violated in the state of Alabama, and by supporting the lower court, because the lower court has said that the Voting Rights Act had been violated, and then the state of Alabama sued all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, where the U.S. Supreme Court upheld the ruling of the lower court, saying, yes, you have violated the Voting Rights Act, but they went so far as to say you violated the Voting Rights Act of Black people. You gerrymandered, you diluted their vote, you packed their vote, you cracked their vote. And I was like reading it, and I didn't even realize they have cracking and packing. I knew they had a lot of diluting, but they even said that in the state of Alabama, that they not only were diluting the Black vote, they were packing all of the Black people into one area and winding and doing all kinds of things to make sure that they didn't have the opportunity to select representation of their choice. Well, why is that important to us here in Virginia? Because that affected our lawsuit, and the Supreme Court upheld Voting Rights Act and Section 2. So with that being said, we'll see you next week. It is 1:00, time to close out. Have a great day. Thank you, Teresa, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
All right. You've been listening and watching GA for Justice with your community activist, Georgia Allen. And don't forget, every Thursday from 12 until 1, she's bringing you exciting guests and information to make a difference in our community. Until next week, this is Bond Digital Media, wishing you a great day.